Good afternoon. My name is Julia Martin-Isle, and I'm in the Office of Special Ed Programs. And today's webinar is on the notice inviting applicants to the Personnel Development to Improve Services and Results for Children with Disabilities Program. And this is the application for Associate Degree Preschool Program Improvement Grants to support personnel working with young children with disabilities for fiscal year 2023. I want to start the slides by noting the webinar slides are for guidance only, and information has been summarized due to logistics of the webinar. We encourage you to read the entire notice inviting applications. Please review the recorded webinar titled Applying for Office of Special Ed Programs Discretionary Grants at this link, and it'll tell you information about submitting an application. And if you'd like to learn more about the Office of Special Ed Programs, you can watch a YouTube video at the following link on this slide. Reminders that informational webinars do not take the place of reading through the entire application package. Best practice tips may be provided, but please keep in mind this is a peer-reviewed competition. Within the applicant package contents, there is a Dear Applicant letter. There is a notice inviting applications. There's a Federal Register notice. You'll have a grants.gov system submission procedures and tips for applicants. There'll be priority description and selection criteria, general information, and required forms. The application timelines are the NIA was published on the Federal Register yesterday, February 23rd. And the application deadline is due no later than Monday, April 24th, 2023. For today's topics, I will go over the purpose of the Personnel Prep Program. I'll review the absolute priorities, definitions, contracts and subgrants, general requirements, the NIA narrative and selection criteria, and any resources for 325N applicants. The purpose of the Personnel Development to Improve Services and Results for Children with Disabilities Program is to help address state-identified needs for personnel prep in special ed, early intervention, related services, and regular education to work with children, including infants, toddlers, and youth with disabilities, as well as to ensure that those personnel have the necessary skills and knowledge derived from practices that have been determined through scientifically based research to be successful in serving those children. This absolute priority and competitive preference priorities. This competition includes one absolute priority, which includes two competitive preference priorities within the absolute priority. Competitive preference priority 1 goes to applications from historically Black colleges and universities, tribally controlled colleges and universities, and other minority serving institutions. And the competitive preference priority for 1 is 0 to 3 points. The second competitive preference priority is partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities, community colleges, tribal controlled colleges and universities, or other MSI community colleges. Again, that ranges from 0 to 3 points. Under competitive preference priority 2, an applicant must have a letter of commitment that demonstrates at least one of its community college partners is an HBCU community college, TCU community college, or other MSI community college. Eligible applicants and the award numbers as well as funding include, we have funding for 10 anticipated awards. Eligibility includes institutes of higher education and private nonprofit organizations. Our funding for a single budget period of 12 months will not make an award exceeding $200,000, and the project period is up to 60 months or 5 years. We have included some defining terms. I'm not going to read them all out, but I wanted to just highlight that we have terms that include competencies, articulation agreements, and evidence-based, as well as definitions for the historically Black colleges and universities, tribal controlled colleges and universities, and minority serving institutions. We encourage you to review these definitions closely. In regards to subgrants, an IHE or nonprofit organization can carry out project activities by doing subgrants. And to the following types of entities, IHEs, nonprofit organizations are suitable to carry out the activities proposed in the application, and other public agencies. The grantee may award subgrants to entities it has identified in an approved application, or that it selects through a competition under procedures established by the grantee. And I just wanted to highlight the indirect cost rate on this competition. We are recommending this program use a training indirect cost rate of 8%. General requirements with applications include recipients of funding under this competition must make positive efforts to employ and advance in employment qualified individuals with disabilities, as well as each applicant for and recipient of funding must, with respect to the aspects of their proposed project relating to the absolute priority, involve individuals with disabilities or parents of individuals with disabilities, ages birth through 26, in planning, implementing, and evaluating the project. Competition information. I'll go over the expected project outcomes and activities, application narrative and selection criteria, project assurances, and general requirements. I've laid out the 3 expected project outcomes on the next 2 slides. As you can see, project outcome number 1 is to increase the capacity of community college faculty to design and deliver curriculum content that prepares associate degree students to work with young children with disabilities and their families, including those who are multilingual and from racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse populations, and support their full and equitable participation, development, and learning in early childhood programs. The second outcome is to increase the number of early childhood program personnel with associate degrees who have the competencies to work with young children with disabilities and their families, and again, including those who are multilingual and from racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse populations, and support their full equitable participation, development, and learning in early childhood programs. The final outcome is to increase collaboration between 4-year institutions of higher education and community colleges to support articulation agreements and career pathways in early intervention and early childhood special ed, to increase the number of associate degree graduates who enter bachelor degree programs. Under our selection criteria, you will see that we lay it out in these areas. Significance is 10 points. Quality of the project services is 45 points. Quality of project personnel and management plan is 20. The adequacy of resources is 10, and quality of project eval is 15, for a total of 100 points. Under the significance NIA narrative, you will see that you must address the need in the field for early childhood program personnel with associate degrees who have the competencies to serve young children with disabilities and their families. Again, including those who are multilingual and from racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse populations, and support their full and equitable participation, development, and learning in early childhood programs. The second part of the significance narrative is to address the need for community college faculty to have the capacity to design and deliver content that will prepare associate degree students to serve young children with disabilities and their families, including those who are multilingual and from racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse populations, and to support their full participation. So when the peer review process happens and the panelists review the significance section of your application, they will award up to 10 points, and they will look at the extent to which the proposed project will prepare personnel for fields in which shortages have been demonstrated, and the importance or magnitude of the results or outcomes likely to be attained by the proposed project, especially improvements in teaching and student achievement. The next section of the narrative is the quality of project services, and I'll remind you this is the largest point section, about 45 points. And within the quality of project services narrative, you're asked to develop or refine a process to effectively enhance and redesign associate degree programs to achieve the intended outcomes of the proposed project. And within that narrative, you're asked to propose your proposal to develop partnerships with a minimum of 3 community colleges to enhance and revise the associate degree curricula within these community colleges, and to prepare early intervention, early childhood special ed, and early childhood education personnel to equitably serve children ages birth through 5 with disabilities and their families. Of note, if you are an applicant and you have been awarded an associate degree pre-service program in the past, the applicant must not partner with the same community colleges and must propose different community college partners to expand the number of community colleges with enhanced programs of study. The second part of the quality of project services is to propose an approach to partner with community colleges to enhance or redesign the associate degree program's curricula by incorporating evidence-based practices into courses and by providing at least one practicum experience. Within this approach, the proposed project will use to identify and incorporate current research and evidence-based practices in the development and delivery of the curriculum enhancement and redesign, as well as the knowledge and competencies students will require in the enhanced curriculum, and how coursework and practicum experience will enable the student to acquire competencies to support young children with disabilities, implement culturally and linguistically responsive instruction and intervention practices, work collaboratively with other practitioners, engage and communicate effectively with families, and support children's full and equitable participation in inclusive early childhood programs. Continuing on quality of project services, you also should provide professional development to faculty in the community colleges to develop their capacity, to enhance or redesign their associate degree program, and implement the new content to prepare associate degree students to work with young children with disabilities and their families. And also to partner with community colleges to support the development of joint articulation agreements to create career pathways for associate degree students. Within the selection criteria under quality of project services, the Secretary considers the quality and sufficiency of strategies for ensuring equal access and treatment for eligible project participants who are members of groups that have traditionally been underrepresented based on race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. The selection criteria looks at the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified and measurable, the extent to which the services to be provided by the proposed project involve collaboration of appropriate partners for maximizing the effectiveness of project services, and the extent to which the training or professional development services to be provided by the proposed project are of sufficient quality, intensity, and duration to lead to improvements in practice among the recipients of those services. And as you'll see on this slide, this again is 45 points. Moving on to quality of project personnel and management plan narrative. You are asked to propose to encourage applications for employment from persons who are members of groups that have traditionally been underrepresented based on race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability as appropriate. The project director and key project personnel have the qualifications and experience to carry out the proposed activities and achieve the project's intended outcomes. The project director and other key personnel will manage the components of the project. The time commitments of the project director and key project personnel are adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. The proposed management plan will ensure that the products and services provided are of high quality, relevant, and useful to the recipients. And the proposed project will benefit from a diversity of perspectives. The applicant also encourages employment from persons who are members of groups that have been traditionally underrepresented. So under your selection criteria, the panelists will be looking for applications for employment from persons who are members of groups that have traditionally been underrepresented based on color, race, national origin, gender, age, or disability. Within the qualifications, including relevant training experience of key personnel, the adequacy of the management plan to achieve the objectives, and the extent to which the time commitments the project director and principal investigator and other key personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives, and the adequacy of mechanisms for ensuring high quality products and services from the proposed project. And this section is worth 20 points. Moving on to adequacy of resources, NIA narrative. Within this section of the narrative, you are to demonstrate how the applicant and any key partners have adequate resources to carry out the proposed activities, and the budget is adequate for meeting the proposed objectives. In determining whether the resources and proposed project are of high level in the criteria, selection criteria, the panelists will look at the adequacy of support, including facilities, equipment, supplies, and other resources from the applicant organization or the lead applicant organization, and the extent to which the costs are reasonable in relation to the objectives, design, and potential significance of the proposed project. This section is worth 10 points. Under quality of project evaluation within the narrative, applicants must describe the relevant outcomes to be measured for the project, particularly the acquisition of faculty and scholars' competencies, and the evaluation methodologies, data collection methods, and data analysis that will be used, and how they will collect, analyze, and use disaggregated data on scholars supported by the project to inform the proposed project on an ongoing basis. The selection criteria is 15 points, and the panelists will look at the extent to which the methods of evaluation are thorough, feasible, and appropriate for the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the proposed project, and the extent to which the methods of evaluation will provide performance feedback and permit periodic assessment of progress towards achieving those intended outcomes. I wanted to highlight some resources as you begin to think about your application. This is the blueprint process for enhancing early childhood pre-service programs and courses. This blueprint was developed in 2016 by past grantees, and the link at the top of the page can take you to the blueprint, which talks about how to enhance those pre-service programs and may help you in your application. Additional resources are you can also look at the discretionary database, and there's a link to that on this slide. And you can look up past grantees and know which grantees were awarded in a grant under the 325N application, and you can learn more about their programs there. An additional resource is our OSIP-funded Early Childhood Personnel Center. Has resources including enhancing pre-service learning systems and early childhood intervention and community college curriculum and resources. And there's a link to that center and their resources here. That information may help you with your application. Additional resources, OSIP also provides information on developing performance measures and logic models to assist you in preparing a quality application. And then the link to the logic models is there on this slide, as well as evaluation resources from our Center to Improve Project Performance, or CIP, can help you plan for your external evaluation and help you create strong performance measures. Additional resources for planning from CIP include developing a state comprehensive system of personal development, a systems framework for building high quality early intervention and preschool special ed programs, and enhancing state early childhood systems infrastructure to ensure quality services. These are all linked and you can look at them in more detail. Some additional requirements within the application include a budget for a 3-day project directors meeting in Washington, D.C. during each year of the project. Note, the project must reallocate unused travel funds no later than the end of the 3rd quarter of each budget period if the 2.5 day project directors conference is conducted virtually. A reminder that we have GEPRA performance measures, and these measures include the following 4 measures: Some of these will not be immediately addressed by this 325N program because these reflect personnel and scholars, and you are refining a curriculum. However, these are the GEPRA measures that you will be asked to report on, and you will work with your project officer to correctly report based on your 325N grant. And that is the percentage of preparation programs that incorporate scientifically based research or evidence-based practices into their curricula, the percentage of scholars completing the preparation program, the percentage of scholars who exit the preparation program prior to completion due to poor academic performance, and the percentage of scholars completing the preparation program who are working in the areas in which they were prepared upon program completion. Next slide is format and page limit recommendations. I just highlight this slide to make you aware that you must format and follow the directions on the page limit recommendations. Again, we're looking at 8.5 by 11 pages on one side only. There are certain margin requirements. You must double space. You must use a font that is 12 point or larger, and use one of the following fonts on the slide. In your appendices, a reminder that you have a suggested order of appendices: reference list, appendix A, other appendices, resumes, vitas, letters, supplementary information. And then letters of commitment, you must include these in Appendix B. Any letters of commitment obtained from partner community colleges. Any letters of commitment should include information on the racial and ethnic demographics of students who attend the community college. Please note that the project narrative attachment form should include the narrative that addresses each of the selection criteria listed elsewhere in this document. The selection criteria will be used to evaluate applications submitted for this competition. The narrative has recommended formatting and page limits, as I talked about. The table of contents and list of priority requirements, if applicable, do not count toward the recommended narrative page limit. And one last final piece of advice: consider having a novice reader review your draft application. Have them look for missing details. Have them look for unclear ideas or undefined terms, and whether you have painted a vivid picture of what you plan to do. I want to thank you for listening to this webinar. I have on the last slide the link to my email and phone number if you have any questions. There's also an email and a phone number for the grant support desk that helps you in applying, helping you to apply through the grants.gov site. And there's also additional training links for the grants.gov training. Thank you and have a good day.